Hello fellow cyborgs, and welcome to another Poetry Tuesday where I'm wearing the exact same thing as I was last week because I am so lazy. Today I'm going to be talking about Poem Your Heart Out, Prompts, Poems, and Room to Add Your Own, which was from the Poem A Day Challenge of April 2014. This is volume 1. This is from Word Stance Publishing, and I picked this up when I did a huge order of their different poetry collections, and I thought this would be interesting. So even though this was the April 2014 edition, fortunately for us, unlike in February, April constantly has the same number of days, which means you can use this, you can fill out the workbook section of this any year you please. So I actually did it this year in 2016, April of 2016. Every day I read the poem that they had selected as an example of answering of the prompt, and I answered the prompt myself in poetic form. It was fun. I didn't spend more than half an hour on each poem, so it was mostly just a creative spurt rather than actual poetic craftiness on poetic craft on my part. Now, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars because, it's on Goodreads, so you have to rate it, because I was so narcissistic during the month that I was really just focused on creating my own poems rather than enjoying or even paying attention really to the ones in here. I would read the prompt, create my poem, and then before I could do a status update on Goodreads, I would have to read the poem that they had next to it. And so it became just like a thing I had to do before I could get on with my evening, which isn't the best thing. I very much did a disservice to the poems and poets already in here. I was far too narcissistic in this. So I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because I couldn't really tell you if I liked the poetry in here because I was just not paying attention because I'm terrible. Now, for the workbook section of this, it was interesting. I wish that the prompts had been more specific, because a lot of them were vague, like write a beginning poem, and the point was for them to just get you to write a poem that, is your poem, very much your poem, but they wanted to give you a starting point. But I found that the freedom they gave you was almost too much freedom for me. I would have liked more of a challenge to try to fulfill the prompt's expectations. But since it was very loosey-goosey, I very much did not spend as much thinking time as I could have on the poems, and I wish that I had been forced to spend more time creating the poems. The prompts are so ambiguous, I could just any old thing on the page and call it, participation. So since many of you really enjoy my Angst to Me Reads poetry series where I read 10-year-old poetry from when I was goth depressed and in high school, I thought that you might like to hear some of the poems that I wrote out of this challenge. You can see all of them on Goodreads in my status updates because I did do daily updates, writing down the poem that I had written in here. But for your edification today, I will read out 2 or 3 that I was particularly proud of. So this was day 1's poem, and the prompt was a beginnings and or endings poem. And this is what I came up with. The blank page gapes up at you as you set down the dregs of your tea. Do you want me to analyze it? Okay. So the idea of this short little poem was you were finishing your cup of tea as you were beginning your novel or your poem, and I thought that juxtaposition was nice. So day 6 poem was a night poem, and this is what I came up with. Never have headlights meant so much until all the other lights went out. It was this week, I don't think it was this day, but we had a blackout. We had no power for about 5 hours in the evening, and when it got pitch dark, I had my window open just to see if the street lights came on, and every time a car drove by with headlights, I would just stare like a moth into a flame at those headlights because it was light. It was light that wasn't a candle or my flashlight in my dark room. And finally, I'm going to read to you day 21's poem. The prompt was back to basics. Abacus, books, cats, dandelion, elephant, fundamentals, galumping, harrow, illume, jest, kindness, lovely, mermaids, narwhal, oblivion, peculiar, quotidian, rain, susurrus, tatterdemalion, Ursula, Valentine, words, Xerxes, yesterday, Zelkova. So I decided for this one to do an acrostic poem of the alphabet A, B, C, D to Z, and then I put some of my favorite words or some words whose imagery I really liked to denote each letter in the alphabet. So I hope you enjoyed this sneak peek into some of the poetry that I have been writing most recently. Not necessarily things that I'm really particularly proud of, but I really liked having a pen in my hand with the intent to write poetry. That was a lovely experience, bit nostalgic, and a fun way to get the creative juices flowing. Thank you for watching. Please let me know down below if you have ever completed a poetry workbook or if you would be interested in doing so in the future. Until next time, go try writing your own poetry, see if you like it, see if it's enjoyable, and as always, continue to be lovely. You're amazing!